Welcome back to the first official video of this channel. I figured we'd start off with a bang and crochet. Now, before you fall asleep, remember this is not your grandma's house, so we're gonna give it a youthful twist. I don't know if some of you follow or don't follow or know, I'm pretty sure a lot of people know who Dua Lipa is. Anyway, Dua Lipa posted a picture on her Instagram. Just kidding, I don't know how to do that yet. Where she was wearing a CareBear bikini, and it was like very revealing, and it had like the bottom like bikini piece, and that's what we're gonna do. Right, so I could not, for the life of me, find a pattern, so I made my own. And for those of you who don't know, you can crochet either in rows and it gives you kind of like a rectangle, it's just like back and forth and back and forth, or you can do what's called in the round, which you're basically starting off with a little circle and then getting bigger and bigger, how you would make a hat. So I decided to make mine in the round. I made mine a circular shape, and then I added just like the ears and the shapes. When I went back to reference her picture, I realized that hers was rows. But that's okay. I mean, the intention was there.
For this project, you're going to be using light and dark colored yarn of your choosing, any old scissors that can cut through fabric, stitch markers if you don't have those, paper clips or safety pins will work, some white felt and thread for the eyes and mouth, a tape measure and hook. I used an H hook for this project. Additional things you can use are pom-pom makers or needles for blocking if you choose to. Now onto the head, which is probably the most important part of this entire project. You can do any other figure if you choose to do so. Now, what you'll see me doing here with my lovely hands, instead of doing a slip stitch, I'm just going to make a loop and start crocheting directly into that area. You'll see a little later why I do that. It's basically so I have a tighter space. So right now I'm just chaining up a few, oop, there goes my yarn. So I'm just gonna chain up a little bit, and then I'm going to do a double crochet. If you don't know how to do any of these stitches, I suggest you watch a different tutorial first, but they're pretty basic. This is a double crochet stitch, here's another one, and for this row we are going to make a total of 11 of those double crochet. Well, I'm going real fast now. And once you get to the 11 stitches that you need, you'll see that I'm making sure I get that little tail end out of my little loop, and I'm gonna pull tight, just making a little butthole shape. I'm gonna insert my hook into that first V, yarn over and pull through, just a slip stitch, and there we have our first row. Make sure it's nice and tight. Now similarly, I'm going to chain up, yarn over, and now in each of these little V's that I'm pointing out, instead of one double crochet, we're going to do 2 double crochets. So I'll show you what I mean by that. So here's just your basic double crochet, yarn over, and in that same spot, not the next one, but in that same spot, you're going to make another double crochet. Now it looks like I'm going fast and I'm doing all kinds of complicated stuff, but basically I'm just doing 2 double crochets in each of those little spaces. Once you get to the end of the row, you're gonna want to make sure you have 24 of those double crochets. And now we're just gonna do the same thing. We're gonna slip stitch, and now in that spot I'm putting a stitch marker, and that's where my first ear is gonna go, and I'm gonna count 6 spots over, and then I'm going to put my other stitch marker just to remind myself that's where the second ear is going to go. And then from there I'm going to count about 4, and that's where my first cheek is going to go. Because you know how they have like weird heads, not just round. So on the other side as well, I'm just counting 4 spots over and inserting my stitch marker to signify my other cheek, and that's all you have to worry about with the stitch markers. So then I'm going to insert my yarn into that same spot, make a slip stitch. In the next spot over, I'm going to make a single crochet. In the next one over, a single crochet. The next one over, single crochet. Next one over, guess what? It's a single crochet. And then a slip stitch where that other ear would go. Okay. So now from the ear to the cheek, we're gonna go with a slip stitch, and then once we get to the cheek, we're going to make a single crochet, yarn over, make a double crochet, yarn over, double crochet. In the next spot we're going to do a half double crochet, so it's like a double crochet, but in those 3 spots we're just going to go through that. Next we're going to make a single crochet, and then this should be the middle, we're just going to make a slip stitch, and then we start over. So single crochet, half double crochet, go through those 3 loops, double crochet, yarn over, double crochet, and single crochet. And then slip stitch all the way up until we get to that orange stitch marker that tells us where our ear goes. So then once we get to this ear, we're going to make 4 single crochet stitches in the same spot. So here's 2, 3, and 4. Make sure you tighten up that yarn. In the next spot over, we're going to make a slip stitch. And now we've got to the top of the head, so we're going to make a slip stitch and then a double crochet, another double crochet in the next spot, then a slip stitch, and then we've gotten to that orange marker again, so we're going to make 4 single crochets like we did before. So here's 1, here's 2, here's, oh, I realize I messed that up. I'm doing double crochets instead of single crochets, but they should be single crochets, and then a slip stitch, make sure that's tight, and that's it. That's the head shape. Yeah, one of my ears is a little bigger than the other, and I just now noticed. Well, that's your head shape. So what you can do is pull that yarn through, cut it, and you basically just make a little knot that way. Make sure your project doesn't unravel. Here's where you can block your project because it doesn't really lay flat, as you can see. But I chose not to do it. I'm gonna be honest, I'm not gonna wear this project. So yeah, I didn't really care. But yeah, that's our basic head shape, and now we can move on to cutting our little felt shapes. We're going to need 5 little circles, so I made 2 long ovals for the eyes, 2 round circles for the ears, and then 1 bigger oval shape. Here you can see my fantastic embroidery skills, because yeah, I was struggling. This is probably what took me the longest out of this project, just because I'm not very good at sewing. But I'm basically just making like a little heart shape for the nose, and always unraveling my thread. And then once you make like a cute little heart shape for the nose, I just made like a little line straight down to make like the little mouthpiece. And I like to add little freckles to my projects, and when I was doing this, I went ahead and just attached it to my actual project. You can do this before or after. I found it a little easier. So I did 3 little freckles on each side, so a total of 6 freckles, and just cut off all my little end pieces so the project looks nice and clean. If you're better at embroidery than I am, then obviously it's going to be a lot better. I just made a little knot just to secure my project on the back. The eyes for me were seriously the hardest part, but again, just because I kind of low-key suck at embroidery, but whatever. For my basic eye shape, I just did kind of like rectangles and a little rectangle at the bottom to be like the cute white eye, like the sparkle. But you can do this any which way. You can make them a little smaller. That's just my finished project because it took forever. Now, to attach the whites of the ears, I just did a basic stitch back and forth and back and forth. I don't know what it's called, but it made like a cute little peppermint effect that I really liked. And then you're just gonna measure yourself.
Once you've measured yourself, you're gonna grab your darker colored yarn, and this is what we're gonna use to make our straps all along the piece. The way I'm gonna do it is I'm just gonna make little chains.
For the chain part, it's super basic. I just did a slip stitch and I made chains a little longer than my measurements so I would be able to tie the tops of the bikini and as well as the waist. Then once you're done, locate the top of your bear and insert that chain. What I did is I went back and inserted that yarn and made a little knot just to secure it, and then I went ahead and weaved my ends just to make sure that it wouldn't be too floppy. This part's optional. I just like to weave in my ends as I'm going. Make sure it's nice and tight. And likewise for the bottom, identify the bottom. And what I did instead of tying it, I left it loose so I could slide it around. And that's it. This is the final product. I decided to add little pom-poms to my project just to be cute. I didn't know if hers had it, but I thought it was nice. And yeah, that's basically the project. And if you have any questions or comments or want to see the bottom bikini piece, make sure to comment down below.